Our next item is 2D, the recommended plan to revise and restructure Administrative Services Credential Program Standards. This item is being presented by Aaron Sullivan. This is an information action item. Ms. Sullivan, will you please begin?
I will, thank you. Let's wait for my slides to keep. Okay, so good afternoon, commissioners. I am presenting to you today the plan to revise and restructure our Administrative Services Credential Standards. Executive Director Sandy mentioned that a little bit this morning, and this is something that has been kind of a long time coming, so I'm happy to walk you through sort of how we got here. So there are several factors that have led us to this point in time, not the least of which, by the way, again, as Executive Director Sandy mentioned this morning, is the standards haven't been updated in 2017. In addition, we had 2 bills passed this year. So with my apologies, the governor's timeline for signing bills and our deadline for getting our agenda items posted for you all and for the public didn't coincide well. So you do have a link to AB 1454 in your item, although it says the chapter and statutes are TBD. They are now assigned. In addition, the governor also signed AB 1009. I'm going to go over each of these a little bit more. We had a veto message from the governor, which a little unusually included some instruction for the commission to engage in some evaluation of the admin standards, and that was back in September 2024. And then, of course, we have the implementation of universal TK, and this is just a few of the things that have kind of brought us to this point and the need to open up the administrative credential standards and take a deeper look. So just quickly, I will talk about the legislation pieces. So AB 1454 was one of the bills that was signed this year. AB 1454 really focuses on getting this quality literacy instruction implemented into the administrative services credentials in a way, so not in exactly the same way that we integrated it into teaching, but in a way so that these administrators are prepared to support and supervise the teachers that are coming out of the programs that now have these great new literacy skills, as well as the existing educators that are going to be the recipients of all the great professional development that also was passed this year in California legislation. So a lot going on around literacy. As we all know, it has reached our administrative services credentials. So I won't read this slide to you, but this talks about, all of the guidelines that we have for getting literacy into the administrative services credential standards. In addition, the governor also signed AB 1009. Now, this is very interesting because when I talk about the veto message was vetoing a bill that would have authorized occupational therapists and physical therapists to qualify to earn a preliminary administrative services credential. This year, the governor actually signed a bill authorizing these individuals to move into the administrative services sphere, but the veto message from last year still stands, and I'll talk about that next. But with 1009 signed, individuals now that hold a valid license to practice occupational therapy or physical therapy from their California Professional Licensing Board may use that now as a base credential toward earning a preliminary administrative services credential. This is unusual for us. The other base credentials are documents that are issued by the commission. We don't issue occupational therapist and physical therapist licenses. So this is new for us. It also raises the minimum service requirement to 5 years of service, because they're not all teaching. And it specifies that these individuals, occupational therapists and physical therapists, when they earn their administrative services credential, that shall not, and that is the language in statute now, be authorized to supervise or evaluate teachers unless their employing school district determines otherwise. And that is all specified in the language. Again, not doing a deep dive on this. Jonathan will talk a little bit more about this at the end of your day when he does the legislative overview, but another piece of guiding information as we move into this work. The governor's veto message, as I mentioned, that was signed last September. He did veto that last bill that would have authorized the OTs and PTs to have a pathway to administrative services. But in it, he requested that the commission develop 2 pathways to the administrative services credential, one for teachers and one for other credential or license holders. So we also have that factoring into the work that we have moving forward. Okay, so let's talk about the phased approach for accomplishing all this work. In your item, starting on page 3, we've kind of broken it out into phases. I will just be very clear here that we have a variety of things to do. We have got to update our existing administrative services credential standards to include literacy and other things, how these individuals can be well qualified to supervise TK classrooms and in some cases PK classrooms. We have to now also look at creating a second pathway to the administrative services credential. So we are on the precipice again of birthing a new credential. And this one is an administrative services credential. That's a big lift. So we are trying to accomplish these things at the same time. We update the standards. We may have a secondary set of standards, and that leads to a different credential. So for starters, in this sort of first between January 26th and September 2028. So I apologize, I'm going to go back a little bit. AB 1454, which requires that literacy information be integrated into the admin standards, gives the commission until September 1, 2028 to accomplish that work. And if they are listening, I would just really like to thank our friends in the legislature that we work so hard with for giving us a really doable timeline. Sometimes those timelines are a little breathtaking, and we were really pleased to see that we've been given the time to be really deliberate and really do this in a very quality way. So I want to be thankful for that. So staff will begin collecting information at state and national levels to learn about the types of administrative credentials and options that other states are offering and that may be needed. So where are individuals being used in administrative situations that are not necessarily roles that have them coaching and supervising teachers? And how are those individuals getting to those spaces now? And would an administrative services credential for those folks be the right thing? In addition, what are the other states doing? So I have, we are working on a little survey that hopefully will go out through NASDAQ that will allow us to check in with our partners across the states and find out who offers more than one type of admin credential and what do those authorize and how are they distributed in their states. Next, staff will be drafting some authorization statements for both the teaching and the non-teaching pathways. These will be vetted with the field. Of course, we always work with our stakeholders in the field, and we always look for commission input. So again, these would be something that's drafted. You can see that as we talk about the timeline for that, at the bottom of page 3, we anticipate being able to do this research and draft some authorization statements and potentially bring you something to respond to at your April 2026 commission meeting, if possible. This is really important, I think, to begin with the authorization statement, because the authorization statements on a credential really define the activities that credential holders will be permitted to perform and or oversee. So by defining this, by sort of starting with that definition, it helps to create the intention to which the standards then need to respond. So what do these individuals need to be able to do? And then how can we prepare them to do those things? The authorization statements will then, as I mentioned, be used to analyze the current administrative services standards, the cakes and capes, which are the content expectations, which is our version of subject matter for administrators, and the performance expectations, which you're familiar with. And then we will be able to bring proposed revisions for work group feedback. So I just want to talk a little bit about updating the current admin standards cakes and capes, which is that third bullet. I will point out that at the top of page 4, you can see sort of the timelines and the chunked out work for that. We're hoping to begin that work by May or June of 2026. And that will carry us through September 2027, because this is where we're going to start bringing in the work group. And the work group, and I will talk a little bit about what it will be comprised of. But as you all know, if you've ever served on a work group, bringing individuals who are current practitioners, whether they're faculty, whether they're current administrators, HR professionals, all of those individuals, bringing them together can sometimes be difficult when we're looking for schedules that work for everyone. So we do have a nice timeline. It gives us an opportunity for staff to create some proposals, some drafts of some things, bring them to the work group for them to respond to, and also provide additional input on things that staff may not have considered that we can then integrate into these draft standards, content expectations, and performance expectations. We will then be able to, nope, that went a little too far. Did I skip a slide? No, I deleted a slide. No, I didn't. Shouldn't say work group. I'm sorry. This is still phased approach. My apologies. So from August 2026 then through February 2027. Nope, I'm sorry. I really screwed up the slides. Give me a moment, commissioners. Yep, I got them out of order. So we'll go backwards. So continuing the phased approach. The implementation of all of this work, which is outlined at the top of page 5, is planned to be completed on or before the statutory deadline of September 1, 2028. This will include, as along the way commissioners provide input, work group provides input, gives us some action items, providing technical assistance to the field in all the ways that we do as staff here at the commission, including program sponsor alerts as appropriate, webinars, conference presentations, maybe responding to invitations to provide technical assistance to various groups. Staff will be there along the way to be able to do this with these institutions and their programs. Also, as noted on page 5 of the item, commission staff will engage with the field throughout the process. We understand this critical component of field input and field engagement is necessary to ensure that constituents have opportunities to provide input and also stay abreast of the work as it proceeds and advances so that they can anticipate the changes that might be coming their way that may require program updates. Certainly, if we update our standards, there's always a rollout and an opportunity for institutions to align to those new program standards. Rolling out the new pathways, potential new performance assessments and examinations, and opportunities for employers to hire holders of these new types of administrative services credentials. I started to talk about the work group. I do not know how to go backwards in a slide presentation once I'm on sharing on Zoom. So I will just mention the work group. Oh, here it is. So the work group that we'll be bringing together, hopefully by August and working with them through February 2027, at a minimum, will need to include current preparation program faculty, employers, which may include either school site principals or HR directors, and practitioners that are serving in a variety of administrative roles, so licensed and non-licensed, probably also our friends in the OT-PT realm. Now that they have a pathway, it probably would be good to have them come in and work with us as part of the work group. But obviously other individuals, commissioners may identify, staff will identify, or executive director may identify as we move forward. I just want to emphasize this because we often get questions from the field, so it never hurts to reiterate. Changes to the current pathway will in no way nullify the credentials that are held by existing holders. So if existing admin services credential holders are out there and you're worried that your existing credential is going to be threatened, it is your right to hold that document. If you are a preliminary candidate at the point where new standards roll out, usually there's a rollout time that allows you to finish out a program that you've started. That is sort of more to come. But rollout times with new standards, programs are typically given about 2 years to roll those out. And again, as we work with them along the way, continue to provide information, they will know that that's coming and we will have opportunities to help them prepare for that and roll those out. And then finally, commission institutions who wish to offer the new pathway will certainly have the opportunity to do that as always, and that will be through our initial program review process. So that is the end of my presentation of the overall sort of scope of this work, how we've laid out the plan to accomplish this work, again, in this really nice timeline that we have to work with. And so staff at this time is just recommending that the commission review this work, review the timelines, and if appropriate, approve the proposed work plan for revising and restructuring these credential programs, and certainly provide any input that you would like staff to take into consideration as we move forward.
We will now open up for public comment. Are members of the public that would like to make a comment, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom. Pressing *9 participating by phone. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Hello, members of the commission. I'm Regina Chagoya from California Federation of Teachers, a union of educators and classified professionals. Regarding agenda item 2D, CFT looks forward to the revision and restructuring of the Administrative Services Credentialing Program standards. CFT has some reservations regarding how these standards will be implemented and ultimately achieved by those other credential holders. If these other credential holders are going to be educational leaders on campus by evaluating certificate employees in order to improve instruction, it seems like a very heavy lift. We will we can comment further as necessary throughout the revision and restructuring process. Thank you.
ETA representatives, Adrian Miotti, Yolanda Munoz, and Lauren Winkle.
Good afternoon. My name is Adrian Miotti. I am a high school English teacher in Irvine, and I am here on behalf of the California Teachers Association. As a proud supporter of AB 1454, CTA appreciates the swift implementation of the legislation so soon after its signing. It is worth noting, though, that the item omits key components of legislation. We agree with the concerns explained by Californians Together in their submitted public comments and recommend that the Commission include language from AB 1454 that details the specific mandate for the Administrative Services Credential, requiring the CTC by September 1st, 2028 to ensure that its program standards for the Preliminary Administrative Services Credential include preparation on how to support teachers in delivering effective literacy instruction aligned to these frameworks and evidence-based practices. The ELA-ELD framework, including instruction to meet the various development needs of English language learners. 2, evidence-based means of teaching foundation reading skills. And 3, the program guidelines for dyslexia. Including this information is critical to successful implementation of AB 1454. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Yolanda Munoz. I'm a 3rd grade teacher from Pasadena, and I'm here on behalf of the California Teachers Association. And to build on what Adrian has shared, CTA asserts the clear intent of the statute is to ensure administrators have training in how to support teachers in implementing evidence-based literacy instruction. This should include training to understand and implement evidence-based reading practices, support teachers in teaching fundamental skills, and meet the needs of all students, including English language learners. CTA recommends including the language, quote, defined as explicit and systematic instructions in print concepts, phonological awareness, phonics, and fluency, as defined in the statute. The revised standards requires attention to oral and written language development, vocabulary, background knowledge, and comprehension with tiered support for struggling readers. CTA also requests that the CTC address how the agency will confirm that administrators' preparation programs implement the revised standards as required by the statute. These new requirements ensure that administrators are prepared to lead schools-wide literacy initiatives and create an environment where teachers can effectively implement the new evidence-based instructional materials adopted by the State Board of Education. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lauren Winkle. I'm an undergraduate student and aspiring educator studying history at UC Berkeley. I'm here on behalf of the California Teachers Association Aspiring Educators Board. I want to bring attention to the work group included in this item. It states, quote, "The work group will include at minimum representation from current preparation program faculty, employers, practitioners, serving in a variety of administrative roles, licensed and non-licensed. But in that list of participants, it doesn't include educators. So we're urging the CTC to include teacher voice in the work group if the goal is to really revise the program standards to include preparation on how to support teachers in literacy instruction, then teachers are going to need to be part of that conversation. Thank you.
Gephardt?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Doug Gephardt. I represent the Association of California School Administrators. On their behalf, we'd like to make a comment on 2D. The Commission has undertaken the task to develop 2 pathways to the administrative credential. ACSA is committed to working with the Commission as a critical working partner and respectfully requests that district and county office education human resource professionals be included in the work group. ACSA anticipates and encourages the Commission to perform a comprehensive review of the current California process, including the identification of any problems with the existing structure and investigating potential implications for the administrative pipeline as the Commission moves towards completing the work to bifurcate the administrative credential. Item 2D is also about implementing the work of AB 1454, which was previously mentioned, to ensure administrators are given preparation on how to support teachers in delivering instruction through effective means for teaching literacy. We respectfully request that the definition of effective means for teaching literacy be aligned to the bill's definition. The carefully crafted language in the bill includes a definition of the full scope of literacy instruction, which will be important for supporting California students. Thank you very much.
Public comment period for this item is now closed. Commissioners have any questions or comments on this item?
Bruce? Thank you. As the husband of a candidate that is going through a military credential preparation program, I'm having to see firsthand the rigor that candidates are going through to get an administrative credential currently and preparation for the Cal APA. I guess the question I have is, and I know that we're responding to the legislature, but the question that I have is what need are we trying to address by creating the non-teaching administrative credential at this point? I guess I'm missing that piece, and understanding the needs that we're going to address with that, and then the potential challenges of having 2 different type of credentials with different authorizations, limitations that districts, especially smaller districts, need that flexibility of being able to have those that are credentialed administrators that are credentialed to be able to fill in various capacities. So I guess that's the questions and concerns that I have.
And thank you for that question. So for starters, looking at a bifurcated pathway to the credential is really something that the governor has asked us to do. So we will at the very least evaluate that. and see what makes the most sense. In thinking about the flexibility piece that you're thinking about, that's where the authorization statements will come in. So I will just say, we're at the beginning of that. We don't know what those will look like. But one credential, they don't necessarily have to be so distinct that you have to either have this or have that. It could be a broader credential that still allows that flexibility and something that's a little more focused, but that does remain to be seen. And as I kind of outlined in the work plan, those draft authorization statements, we will bring those for commission input because they are going to form the basis of what the rest of the work looks like. So we'll have an opportunity for field input, but also your.
Well, big job. But it's time. We've been talking for a while about what the administrative credential need to look like. I noticed in a couple of the letters, that were submitted, they also talked a lot about supporting PK and TK, and that's something that we were thinking about as well. I like the way you said we need to update it to include literacy and other things, because it seems like if we're going to look at the administrative credential, then let's really do it in a way that makes sense. The question I have, and this is a little bit of a maybe a little naive question, is what I'm hearing in the districts around me has to do with administrators who have been, let's make it up as an example, have been a high school teacher and become an administrator of an elementary school with no background in elementary school teaching. So I don't know where that has the non-teaching and teaching, or if it has nothing to do with it. But that idea that an administrator somehow needs to be prepared or have opportunities to become prepared in the level of school that they're administering. I'm just looking around the table because most of you have more experience in the elementary and secondary levels than I do. But that's what's come to my ears. So I just thought I'd bring that issue up. Not that there needs to be an answer now, but a question.
Commissioner Simmons and Commissioner Francois. Well, I am misquoting Linda Darling Gannon. She said something about systems that learn or learning to learn, something like that. And what I'm really hoping is that whatever we come up with is broad enough that it is not so chock full of little bits of this and little bits of that, so that it takes you 5 years to get potential. So I think how we think about designing this has to be sort of like, how do you prepare someone so that when they go into that job, just as when you're teaching math teachers, they have to be prepared to go into middle school, or they may have to go into high school. So I think that somehow when we do this, it needs to be with that in mind, so that as a high school math teacher, I right now supervise first grade teachers teaching reading. Now I have experience from Rika, so I know what that is, what that should look like. Then it might be that I would need to learn that as part of my job. So I think we need to have some openness on that. But I also think that this is between this bill and 849. It really puts the commission's toes deeply in the classified world where we have never been before. So even in your presentation, you talked about, I think it was 5 years full-time experience in schools. Well, we clearly know, Aaron can say what 5 years of full-time experience means for a certificated person. But do we even know what 5 years experience for a classified person is? Is it 75% of a school year? Is it, or is it of their work year, which for classified can be, 256 days, whatever it is. So what is in what is our world, their world, in terms of all of those baseline definitions that we would have to think through?
Now is when it does, this project.
Commissioner Francois?
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. I always appreciate your insight to these types of agenda items, and thanks to the staff. I learned a lot from this agenda item about the intersection of new regulations and laws and what currently exists. On behalf of the University of California, though, I'd like to take this opportunity to read the written comment that was submitted by our directors and former directors of the UC programs that offer administrative credential programs. We collectively, they're named the UC Principal Leadership Institute. This letter was submitted as a written comment, so you get the details there. And I'm going to pass over the citations in the interest of time, but you can find those also on the written comment that was submitted. Dear Dr. Grunow-Shire and Dr. Vixie Sandy, as the directors and former directors of the Principal Leadership Institute at UCLA and UC Berkeley, we have a long-standing commitment to developing high-quality, equity-focused leaders for California's TK through 12 public schools. We read items 2D and 2F with great interest and strongly concur with the need to review and revise the content expectations, performance expectations, program expectations, as well as the performance assessments related to administrative service credentialing. We also applaud the CTC for their intention to engage a work group to inform staff in this important work. We write to raise 3 additional considerations to be incorporated into the work plan. First, consider severe restrictions or elimination of emergency waivers and the exam route. Since 2011, the UC Berkeley and UCLA have been corresponding with the CTC to express grave concerns about maintaining an exam route that requires no coursework to earn the preliminary administrative services credential. Since then, emergency waivers were added. A forthcoming report in publication by West Ed analyzes data from the Commission's dashboard, revealing that the majority of new administrators in California are no longer being prepared through traditional university-based programs with coursework, mentoring, and structured fieldwork. Instead, by 2023-24, 62% of California administrators are entering school leadership through emergency waivers, temporary credentials that bypass preparation entirely. And the California Preliminary Administrative Credential Examination, a test-only route to certification. The Commission has a responsibility to investigate and enact policies that ensure new administrators receive quality preparation, not shortcuts. This work plan seems like a perfect opportunity to do so. The first step includes a thorough analysis of credentialing information to better understand historical trends that can inform new policies, something that is not currently outlined as a part of the work plan, although I do believe Erin alluded to it in her presentation. Number 2, explicitly incorporate the knowledge and resources of the 21st Century California School Leadership Academy, 21 CSLA, and you've heard me report on them before in previous meetings. For 6 years, 21 CSLA has been providing effective, no-cost professional learning to educational leaders in California that focuses on building capacity for equity leadership and continuous improvement. Professional learning includes leadership coaching, communities of practice, localized professional learning topics, and universal transitional kindergarten. Evidence-based practices have been integrated into the work of 21 CSLA, including the development of coach measurement tools, professional learning lesson study, research practice models, and research briefs. The 8 grantees include many of the longstanding leaders of leadership preparation in California, located in county offices of education and institutions of higher education. Given the $97,479,000 investment by the California State Legislature, State Board of Education, California Department of Education, and California Collaborative for Educational Excellence, as well as strong results, we encourage the Commission to explicitly name the incorporation of 21 CSLA into its work plan. And lastly, articulate an expansive view of literacy into new standards for leaders who are charged with literacy development. Of course, we want leaders who have the strong knowledge and skills to support the reading and writing of young people in their school communities. We also want leaders to foster literacy development that draws on the multilingual and multimodal, including digital, stories and experiences of diverse members of the school communities that empowers young people to distinguish quality information sources from misinformation, that enables them to share their own stories, investigate problems and issues in their communities, and envision a better future for all of us. We encourage the Commission to adopt an expansive view of literacy in their work plan that aligns with the role of leaders in attending to literacy development in the context of school improvement. Thank you for considering our suggestions with this ambitious work. We stand ready to support the Commission's effort in the area of administrative services credentially, and it is signed by, as I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the current directors and former directors of the Principal Leadership Institutes representing the University of California. Thank you.
Commissioner Khan?
Excited about the work that's connected to literacy. And really, as we are building up and supporting instructional leaders, having our principals, having our site leaders and district leaders understand what this work looks like and what their role is to support educators and our students, I think is really important. Because my question is, in what way will CDE be involved in this process? And how will the Commission ensure an alignment of the work with California's comprehensive approach to literacy and biliteracy, as well as any recent or legislative guidance or requirements? So sort of tie in the work that already and making sure that we've got alignment.
I appreciate reminding us of our CDE colleagues that, yeah. So I think we have a really nice working relationship with our colleagues at CDE right now. So I appreciate the reminder to, do that reach out at that, or that outreach to them. As for things that are currently published, we will need to take all of those things into consideration. So things published by CDE, updates and et cetera, as well as the CSLA 21 that Commissioner Francois was mentioning. So we will need to gather sort of all of those pieces of evidence and research and bring those into consideration.
And the Commissioner Klatt.
Actually, the CTA people mentioned what I was going to say, but just in terms of representation on the work group, you outlined people in all different aspects of the supervisory role. I would think you ought to have some representation from the people who are subject to supervision. The teachers are classified. We'll talk about how some of those things affect.
Commissioner Klatt.
I think you were reading her mind reading. That was exactly going to be my question, is what flexibility do we have in the work group? I definitely would support the idea that teachers, is given what Executive Director Sandy reported this morning about the impact administrators can have on a teacher's longevity in the classroom. And to Commissioner Brown's point, that if we can have people in there, and I like that you include classified staff as well, but that we have people from the range of school, perhaps middle school, elementary, so that the range would be in there. So I'm not sure if we can expand the work group, but I definitely agree with that idea of including people who would be supervised.
Commissioner Brown.
I have a few things I want to say, so I hope this comes out in some organized fashion. But I just want to share a fun fact to start out with. My first experience on a work group was in 2011 on the Administrative Services work group. And that was the opportunity for me to get hooked on the work of the CTC. So how's that for an advertisement for said work group? It's so much fun, you'll never want to leave.
Where it leads.
Yes, right here. I do want to kind of jump on that notion of the composition of the work group. Because all of the testimony we heard, all of the legislation, all of the changes that have occurred leads me to the conclusion that the hashtag is complicated, right? And so when we're faced with a complicated task or hard work, I think it makes it a much easier lift when we have the right people in the room. And I want to kind of give us a shout out that we can do hard things. And we have recently done hard things with the right people in the room. Shout out to the TPA work group. You guys are probably on Zoom all watching. They really wrestled with difficult, complex issues, did not shy away from conflict, but embraced it in order to get to a better place. So that is my wish for this work group. And what I would like to just close with is that there are many ways to have a balanced work group. And I know it's hard sometimes when we're striving for that Goldilocks option of just right, not to this, not to that, but just right in the middle. And I'm hopeful that we could consider that expertise exists in a variety of ways. And so getting that perspective of many people from many places in the state that work in urban areas, rural areas, big districts, small districts, the more mindful we are in crafting this work group, then I think we're setting ourselves up for success in the long run. This item. So that's my wish, the Goldilocks option for the composition of the work group. Thank you.
Commissioner Erickson.
Thank you for all of your work on this. Third revision of administrative standards as we move along. And I was on the CPACE design team. So I'd like to address the assessment piece that's coming up. As we move forward, I would hope that we've learned so much about the teacher performance assessments and the administrator performance assessment that someone coming in without that broad knowledge and curriculum base that we infuse all of our administrative programs in, that would look to those types of designs for assessment for those who are not taking the programs, but just becoming administrators by the CPACE, I believe, was all multiple choice. And a good teacher probably would be able to pass it without too much of a knowledge base about leadership and managing people. That's not to say they wouldn't come in with that, but I just believe that that's very important as we look to who comes into leadership positions in the school. So critical.
Yeah, from my limited knowledge of that particular exam, because that is not where my expertise lies. So that's why Taylor and Juliet Wallleitner will be at the table later, but there is a performance piece that's part of that assessment. And it's not easy. The pass rate isn't terribly high.
Right now with the APA. Oh, yes.
No, not the APA. Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about the CPACE. That's what I
okay.
thought we were
Yeah,
addressing.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's a rigorous assessment now. And while I got flummoxed with my slides being out of order, I failed to bring into the work plan the fact that the performance assessment staff from DREA will be alongside the accreditation staff in this, because they're going to be looking for where performance assessment and CPACE both need to be updated and how that needs to happen. I know that's in the item, but I meant to also call that out in the presentation.
I just wanted to say something. I'm probably going to go off on a little bit of a tangent, so excuse everyone here. I'm so happy that we're visiting this because I think it's something that needs to be revisited because our administrators are struggling, right? And we're losing administrators, and we really need to support our administrators and be able to get more into the field. Many of my colleagues who are school counselors or have PPS holders have been tapped to go into administration. I know my entire career I've been tapped to go into administration, and I have said no, because that is not the lifestyle that I want. I really do honor that they do, right? But I remember early on in my career, had met someone who was an administrator, and he had his PPS, and I said, "Don't you have your admin credential?" It's like, "No, I have my PPS." Like, how is that possible? So throughout my career, I was trying to figure this out, right? And I know that currently there is an ed code, was it 442.070.2 that allows PPS holders to supervise other PPS, right? So it's either an administrator or a PPS holder. And this is kind of like a battle that I've had with, I think, with different districts, saying that only a director of student services has to have an admin credential. Well, if it's written in the job description, it does, but technically it doesn't under ed code. It could be the director of student services and be over all PPS holders. The reason I bring that up is because we have so many PPS holders that play this role. I remember when my administrator would leave campus and I was the designee, and I have played a lot of these roles. And because of that, like there's a lot of school counselors, there's a lot of PPS holders that learn these roles, and they eventually do go into administration. I'm on a tangent, but somebody had made a comment to me once. Would you ever think about being a superintendent? And I said, why would I be a superintendent? I have to go through an admin program. Goes, no, you don't. You know that to be a superintendent, you do not have to have an admin credential. I think it was actually addressed in one of the letters, one of the comments that was put in there. And that's something to think about, is that here we have a lot of educators jumping to service credentials to be an administrator, but you don't need a credential or an admin credential to be a leader over everyone. Up for thought. I think a lot of people jump hoops to be in leadership positions, but not at the very top. And so what I'm just trying to say is that I think there's other avenues that people can be leaders on campus. Also, instead of an admin, could you have that PPS and still serve in that role for PPS holders? And I think, and the reason I bring it up is on this work group, I think it would be great to have a PPS voice on there. And I know it's not often thought of why, but because we're so involved in the MTSS process of providing interventions, especially for literacy, that we are often having to find out how to best assist our students academically. So I think part of this work group, it would be great to have a PPS person, like a director of student services, or that's had to play that role. But I say all that because there's all these other workarounds. And I think we have an opportunity to really create something, but to also be able to be more inclusive of other credential holders, let it be classified or other credential holders. With that said, anyone else would like to comment?
I just love the fact that you brought up our PPS folks, because they work one-on-one with not only our teachers, but our students too. And with our current signs of literacy or change in skill, it's so important to have every player in the room to have this conversation. So it's really a good space right now to think of like all the folks that can contribute to this hashtag complicated matter. It's ambitious, but you got this.
Any other commissioners? So this is an information action item. Do I have a motion to approve the proposed work plan to revise and restructure the Administrative Services Credential Program standards to include content on supporting teachers in delivering effective literacy instruction, and develop 2 pathways to the credential, one for teachers and one for credential holders? Commissioner Simpson first, Commissioner Mancias second. Is there any further discussion? Will the recording secretary please call for the vote? Each member, please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Annette Brown.
Aye.
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
Carol Cotton.
Aye.
Juan Cruz.
Aye.
Christopher Davis.
Aye.
Michael Delatorre.
Aye.
Tina Beno Shire.
Aye.
Dominic Carr. Aye.
Aye.
Macias.
Aye.
David Simmons. Richard Simmons.
Aye.
Fang Yuzhou.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Sullivan, and thank you to everyone who's contributed to this. I'm looking forward to getting more information.
Thank you.
We're on to our next item, item 2E. Plan to improve options for meeting the subject matter requirement credentials. This item is being presented by Juliet Waltliner and Adam Ibrahim. It's an information action item. Then Dr. Waltliner, please begin.
Thank you so much. Andy. Thanks, Adam. All right. Did I catch up? Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Item 2E, the plan to improve options for meeting the subject matter requirements for a teaching credential, builds on the item that we brought to you in August. In that item, we discussed some of the current challenges with the subject matter requirements and laid out possible options to address those challenges. Those options were approved by the commission, and we were directed to create a plan to take action on those options. And so this item presents that plan. So to begin, just as a reminder, all candidates for preliminary teaching credentials must demonstrate subject matter competency by meeting the subject matter requirements for their credential area or for their subject area. Historically, candidates could do this by completing a commission-approved degree program or by passing the appropriate CSET. So pretty narrow options there. But as we've talked about, AB 130 passed in 2021 created new options for candidates to meet the subject matter requirement. These included the completion of a degree aligned with the credential area the candidate is seeking, completion of coursework that aligns with the credential-specific subject matter domains, or through a combination of coursework and the appropriate CSET. However, as I discussed in August, these new options came with unintended consequences. While AB 130 created options, it also created new areas of confusion for both programs and candidates. And so we have some actions to expand on those options. The plan outlined in this item seeks to create new options to eliminate or at least diminish those areas of confusion. Our ultimate goal is to maintain high standards for our candidates while providing very clear options to meet those standards. So I'm going to go through the actions. The first action involves expanding the degree majors that meet the subject matter requirement for each credential subject matter. Current statute states that for single subject candidates, a degree must have the credential subject area in its name to satisfy the subject matter requirement. For multiple subjects, there is a short list of qualifying degree majors, mainly liberal studies, liberal arts, and elementary education. So this can just create some challenges for candidates who have a degree in a closely aligned area that just doesn't have the name in the degree. So to address this, we propose changing current statute to allow for greater flexibility in the areas where a candidate may hold a degree. So this process would include first assembling a group of current practitioners and teacher educators to engage in a focused policy review. The group would review the current policy, consider additional appropriate majors not currently included, and make recommendations for expanding the acceptable degree option. The list of recommendations would then be shared with practitioners to gather their feedback. And based on that feedback, the recommendations would then be revised before being presented to the commission for possible approval.
And we're actually anticipating that work we do pretty quickly. We have some ambitious timelines in this item, just a little side note there. But hopefully by June of 2026. So the second proposed action is to streamline and simplify the language in the existing SMR domains to ensure consistency in their scope, specificity, and format across the credential subject. As we shared in August, the current subject matter requirements were developed as specifications to inform the development of the CSETs. They were never intended to be used for transcript evaluation. The current format and the variance across subject areas has led to significant confusion for programs and candidates. The process for sorry, next slide. The process for doing this streamlining, sorry. Too excited there. Okay. The process for doing this streamline would involve staff reviewing the language and content in the existing domains and subdomains for each subject area, determining the key content, and then revising the existing language to create clear, concise statements to articulate that key content. And there is a draft version of what this would look like for one of the multiple subject domains in Appendix D. Didn't include them all because there's 23 domains for multiple subject. Wanted to keep the item a little bit short. Anyway, this work would begin with the highest frequency CSET subdomains. That list is provided in Appendix C. And then the revised domains would be shared with practitioners to solicit their feedback. That feedback would then be used to inform revisions before the revised domains would be presented to the Commission for approval. And the work would continue with additional subject areas, but we just want to start with those highest frequency areas first. So while I think of Action 2 as the short-term solution to get clear, concise domain language into the hands of programs that are engaging in that transcript analysis sooner than later, because we've heard their complaints, Action 3 is the longer-term action to revise the existing subject matter requirements that we know is needed. As I just explained, existing subject matter domains were developed to support the construction of the CSETs. And they differ in scope, specificity, and format across credential areas. Additionally, for some of the areas, the State Board of Education adopted PK-12 standards and frameworks with which the subject matter requirements are intended to align have been updated since the subject matter requirements have been developed, or since the domains have been developed. So Action 3 then would revise the subject matter requirements for each subject matter area to ensure their alignment with the appropriate State Board approved PK-12 standards or frameworks, to ensure they are consistent in format and scope across subject areas, and to ensure that they are valid for both CSET development and transcript review. And so this process would be a bit more involved. This would include first assembling subject area specific work groups consisting of current PK-12 credentialed practitioners and teacher educators to review the existing subject matter requirement domains to determine their alignment with current State Board approved PK-12 standards or frameworks and current classroom contexts. Based on the findings of each group, subject matter requirement domains would be revised and drafted to ensure they are alike in their format and their scope. Feedback would be solicited, and then the revised domains would be presented to the Commission. Upon approval, those revised domains would be shared with preparation programs with guidance for using them for that transcript evaluation. This work, like the previous action, would begin with the highest frequency CSET areas. So while actions 1 through 3 are, what I want to say is they're focused on like specific things that we're going to tackle, and we have the specific plan. Actions 4 and 5 are a little bit more exploratory in nature. Action 4 is to explore the use of a tool that would simplify and modernize the process of transcript analysis. As I have shared, the process of evaluating transcripts to determine the alignment of coursework with the subject matter domains is cumbersome, time-intensive, and it varies across programs. So we would begin this exploration by first surveying preparation programs currently engaged in transcript analysis to determine to learn about existing tools they are using or they are developing to help support their process and systems and procedures that they're using, just to kind of learn about what's out there. I think of this as crowdsourcing, from programs across the state. At the same time, we really want to gather specific details about the common challenges programs face in doing this work. We've heard lots of comments and we have lots of anecdotal information, but we really want to gather that in a focused way. So following the survey, we would then investigate promising practices that are shared just to learn some more about them. We take our findings, synthesize those, and develop some recommendations that present to the commission. Caveat though, so we'll have those recommendations, but any actions based on those recommendations would require additional resources. There's a significant amount of work that our staff is undertaking, as you'll hear, or as you're hearing, and as you'll hear across the next items. And so that's all we're committing to at this point. But we do hope to have those findings for you by June of 2026. And then action 5 is again exploratory. This is exploring the feasibility of developing a micro certification. Again, currently there's limited information available to candidates about which courses align with the subject matter requirement domains, and transcript review is not consistently available. So I'm just gonna, the side note, if we think of action 4 as an action to really support programs, I think of action 5 as exploring an action to really that would support candidates. Even when that transcript review is available, if a candidate finds out that they have not taken the necessary courses to meet a subject matter domain, it's not really clear to them what course or courses they need to meet that domain. Their option is the CSAT again. So this action would explore the creation of focused courses of study at IHEs that clearly align with the subject matter domains. These micro certifications would integrate subject matter preparation with college level coursework that could be taken pre or post-pre. So developing micro certifications absolutely require collaboration with IHE representatives to explore course sequences that align with the domains, followed by commission staff verifying that courses do in fact meet those domains. Once that verification has occurred, then micro certification models be developed and refined before being piloted at selected institutions and then brought to the commission for review. Again, like action 4, this work would require additional funding and or partner support to really carry out. So with that, I'll bring to you a long list of recommendations. We've clustered these recommendations by the actions that I presented. So what we're recommending is that the commission direct staff to, for action 1, engage in a focused policy review and to return with the recommended statutory or regulatory changes. That the commission approve the work plan and direct staff to proceed. And for actions 4 and 5, that you endorse the exploratory scoping with implementation contingent on funding. And then that you direct staff to report back on cost estimates, timelines, any proposed legislative or regulatory language to operationalize these actions. So thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to make a comment, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Stop sharing. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
Yolanda Munoz.
Hello, my name is Yolanda Munoz. Again, I'm a 3rd grade teacher from Pasadena, and I'm here on behalf of the California Teachers Association speaking on item 2E. We'd like to thank the CTC Commission for bringing forward this plan on how to improve options for meeting the subject matter requirements. CTA supports actions that would embed requirements into existing coursework and lessen the burden on teacher candidates, such as expanding degree majors and micro certifications. We'd like to remind the Commission of the discourse in the last Commission meeting about the appropriate and accurate use of AI for teacher candidate transcript review. CTA believes in ensuring equity in the adoption and use of AI in education, given the evolving nature of AI. CTA asked the Commission to consider ensuring a human review be a component of the transcript review. Thank you.
John Luivano.
Hello, I just have a short statement to read. Regarding action 5, if the commission needs help in obtaining the necessary dedicated funding for the development of micro certifications, please do not hesitate in reaching out to Steve McDougall, President of California Federation of Teachers EC, Early Childhood to Transitional Kindergarten through 12 Division Council of Locals. Thank you.
Gephardt.
Commissioners. 2E, AXA welcomes the additional clarity around the subject matter requirements and urges the Commission to implement cost-effective credentialing solutions that will help districts hire and retain highly qualified candidates. AXA has identified several tangible ways the CTC might immediately help assuage the shortage while upholding high-quality standards. 1, ESL adult education teachers. Grant clear credentialing pathways for holders of teachers of English as a second language, teaching English to speakers of other languages, teaching English as a foreign language, and others similar certifications with at least 1 year of teaching experience. These educators should be credentialed promptly at no additional costs, with the stipulation that they teach exclusively in ESL programs. 2, CTE teachers. Provide greater flexibility to offer full-time equivalency positions and allow CTE teachers to teach non-core elective courses without being deemed misassigned. Attracting CTE teachers who often make a higher income in their respective industries will continue to be an issue without innovative incentive opportunities and partnerships. School leaders need flexibility to adequately staff their schools, and the inability to offer a full-time equivalent position and allow the CTE teacher to teach these courses add to continuing staffing challenges. Thank you very much.
There are no additional requests for public comment.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item?
Thank you. My comment is kind of wishful thinking and it's aligned with the item. Will pardon me for bringing it up since it's my last meeting. It's my last chance to bring it up, but it's an issue that's been close to my heart for all the years I've been here, and that's around the micro certifications. And I realize that in the scope of this item, we're talking about for SMRs, but I just want to bring up, we were to look at that at some point, that we might also consider other areas of micro certification, such as teacher mentoring and coaching, or assessment, socio-emotional learning, that these might be things that teachers could acquire. And while districts right now don't necessarily have positions they've created for these things, and going back to what Commissioner Cardenas was saying earlier, I am also a teacher who did not want to pursue admin. It didn't mean that I didn't want to pursue leadership opportunities, but my place was in the classroom, not as an admin. And I have all respect for administrators. I just know that that's not me. And so if we could think about micro certifications while we're thinking about it, maybe what other areas, so if there's a work group, what other areas might help support the expansion of teacher leadership roles
non-administrative situations. So I just want to throw that little wishful thinking future.
Commissioner Torre?
I had a question about the tools that were alluded to. I'm assuming those are AI tools.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
It's really just to see what are, programs, we know they've been grappling with this. What are they coming up with?
And I would just like to make sure that if AI, I'm not opposed to AI tools at all. I use AI extensively. But I like AI in terms of like for approval of things, but I don't like AI for denial of things. So if ever there's a denial of candidacies, that's always up to a human.
Absolutely.
But if it's for approvals, I'm all for AI for approving.
Well, and I can share, I have heard of one institution that is piloting an AI process, but the ultimate determination is made by a human.
Great. So I would just like to keep that in mind that if the tool goes through to approve coursework, that's fine. I'm all for that. But if it's ever for like denials of things like these don't qualify, that ultimately that goes through a human process to double check those. Because I know that when it's, for example, if it's not in the name, I'm a statistics major, for example, there's no math in the word statistics.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of math. I did a lot of math. I can guarantee you. So.
You sound
Thank you.
Chair Shire and Commissioner Yusuf, Commissioner Kyan, and I see you, Commissioner Pabri.
So I don't know if you heard the collective sigh of relief that I did from the field as you were presenting this, because as well intended as Assembly Bill 130 was, it had some incredibly complicated, back to that hashtag, impact on credential analysts, associate deans, and faculty. So I want to commend the staff for bringing this exceptional work plan to us. I also just want to lift up the continuous improvement nature of the plan. It's built in. It's consistent with our strategic plan. So thank you.
Commissioner Yusuf.
I just want to add to this AI conversation because as an AI instructional coach, really important front and center is always human. Right. Decisions are made based on the analysis, and it takes a long time to analyze any type of data, right? It's a lot of mathing to be done. When we can utilize technology to leverage the time, please do so, because that also cuts the cost, because I keep seeing like funding. We don't have the man hours to pay for a human being to look through all the data. But at the end of the day, whether it is approval or denial, that should be done by a human, which is something that I'm sure everyone is aware of. If not, it's like an AI is not denying you of your credential or moving forward. But yes, use it to leverage your time and money.
Commissioner Khan.
Along those lines, AI is a fantastic tool, but it is also sometimes a flawed tool. And so questions around how will CTC take steps to ensure cultural bias is eliminated when selecting AI tools. That's very real, and also in future exams. And then is there a way that you can guarantee, similar to Commissioner De La Torre's request, is that if the transcript or something is rejected because of AI, that it will have a second review with human eyes, human space, eyes, EY.
Commissioner Pabri.
So again, lots of excitement in the field around this. Thank you for your very thoughtful, deliberative plan. I think there's excitement around all 5 areas. I have some feedback from some of my colleagues, and they may be better suited to the next item on exams, but I'll just bring them up now because I think they apply to both. And so the first piece of feedback really is about the degree majors and expanding degree majors, and a caution or a caveat there that whenever we have a list, we're invariably going to leave someone out. So I don't have a solution for you, but I just want to put that caveat out there. And especially, thinking about out of state majors coming in, so there may be majors that we may overlook. I don't know if there's a way in statute to put something a little bit broader, but just wanted to voice that. As far as the exams, there has been a request, if you will, as we think about the exams. Right now, the way the CSETs are, subjects are clustered together, so you can't just take the CSET in math and not in science, or they're grouped together. And so so there's the request that these be disaggregated, and so a candidate can take just the area that they need to pass. And another piece of feedback was if we could remove a 45-day waiting period after a candidate fails an exam. There are many reasons why they may fail the exam, and if they didn't have to wait, they may not be missing. It's possible that there are deadlines they miss and things like that. So I know these are very much in the weeds, but I did want to give voice to some of these very specific pieces of feedback that I know the field will have opportunity to weigh in on as they relate to the exams. Thank you again for your excellent work.
Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you for this agenda item. I think that this is a great move in the right direction that has been a long time coming. I just want to focus my comments a little bit on action 5. I am not opposed to exploring micro certifications, but I want to go back to earlier in our meeting today, we talked about how helpful it would be to have a work study on online programs and micro credentials or micro certifications or badges or whatever we're calling it. So while I'm not opposed to action 5, it makes me nervous when I see convene a higher ed and PK-12 partnership to design models. I know it says 2027, but we haven't had the work study, so I know what you're talking about. So in my wish for a timeline, I would like more information about what we're talking about when we say a micro certification. Who might give that micro certification and how are they qualified to give it? And what does it mean at the end of the day? So I guess before I can get fully behind action 5, I would like that study session. So I know that when I say micro certification, it's the same that Commissioner Simmons when he says it, that we're on the same page about what it means and how they work before we start convening partners to design them. Because I feel like it might be a little bit of the cart before the horse situation. So I know it says 2027, but time flies like that. So if we could have that study session before, I think I would be more confident in getting behind action 5.
I think we can, Commissioner.
I was going to say, happy to go into micro certifications, micro credentials ad nauseum, participate in the information session, but you're going to start to notice some specific kind of caveating in this plan, and then careful attention to the process we're applying to the different work plans based on staff capacity, which is what I get to monitor, and the project planning of all the things that we're putting out. And so I'm matching up the things we're committing to do with staff capacity and staffing. We currently are not funded, or we do not have staffing to do 5. We have staffing to do a little bit on 4, but not a lot. And so, we're at the point where because of the priorities of the state, the legislature, the governor, the 10 executive director priorities, the ongoing projects that we have, we're just at a point to where we're just going to be, very, very forthright about where there's a lot of curiosity and interest in staff and in the commission and around the table. And so we need to be clear here where we are limited in capacity. And so 5 and 4 are 2 of those. And you're also going to see that in the level of process applied to the examinations. Next item.
I think related to that, and thank you, Deputy, for doing your job at the table. Much appreciated. We certainly can caveat 5 to, when and if funded to do this will be a deep dive into micro certification concept. That make that, we can blend that into what 5 is about. Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Simmons?
Since this is an information action item, might it be prudent for us to treat 1, 2, and 3 as action? And 4 and 5 as execution? And if that's, I've seen nodding heads, then I would like to move that we move forward with 1 through 3. And that we direction staff to explore 4 and 5 more fully.
It sounds like we have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. We have a second by Commissioner Cruz. Any further discussion? Chair Shire, and I think Commissioner Simmons wants to say something though.
Because just about the motion. Okay. I think this is just fantastic. I love the whole thing, except for my little credentials. And but I could very much love it if I need to. So I started with this in 2001 when I was on the math subject matter panel. And what I found was that not only did the I forgot who Pearson was at the time, but whatever company.
Evaluation systems.
NES. Okay. Back in those days, it was funny because it was like NES not only defined the SMRs, but then when the SMRs kind of defined the credential structure. So it was, I mean, like the foundational math credential came out of the fact that with the way we were testing the CSET, yeah, it was CSET. It kind of defined, I mean, it was really putting the cart behind the horse. No, we're supposed to. It was the other way around. So I really do think that this is, it's just awesome.
Chair.
I was just rereading the staff recommendations, and I think given this revised motion, I think that's what it says. So the number 3 is endorse exploratory scoping for actions 4 and 5, the implementation contingent on data partnerships. We don't disagree with that. And then number 4, direct staff to report back on cost assessments, timelines, and any proposed legislative or regulatory language. So I'm comfortable with that, given this revised motion. Are other folks? That's what we're asking the staff to do.
Currently have a motion on the table, but what I'm hearing you saying is revise our motion?
No.
Or are you saying?
I think it's consistent.
I think it's consistent with the
I think it's consistent, yeah.
motion. For Davis.
Wanted to echo what's been said on the table, and I think that what's planning is being the work the process that you will put forth to bring this to us. And one recommendation when it comes to just echoing what Commissioner Usopp and Commissioner Cotton was saying about that if we need to entertain or enter into a discussion about and perhaps you can, tap some of the folks in there to help us understand what those lives, what that could look like. First of all, if you've ever gone on ChatGPT and say, please generate, this is one of those exercises that I give when I give PD talks about need. Let's create an image of Jesus Christ. I was a white guy with long flowing hair. But if you do not specifically say, in a biblical sense, create an image of Jesus Christ, and you'll see the black guy that he is in reality, because that's the language of the Bible. So again, it's about what it is that you're searching and the specificity of the search that makes the difference, because we also know that AI has developed to the extent where there's a flaw in almost every single search result that it generates. It'll generate something, there'll be either a spelling error, or punctuation error, or like that whole error in skin color, because it's becoming more human. And we've asked it in our searches over the history of AI to say, make this sound more human. So then they add flaws to it to make it sound more human, as opposed to making it better or softening the language. So that caveat, please make sure that we're going to go in any AI route. There's some discourse around how that might look, because again, I agree with Commissioner Cotton about it. And also Commissioner De La Torre about, the math, the statistics. If you throw in numbers, it could come back with something flawed, and you do need somebody to sit there and audit all of those results and think that through before a decision is made. The other question or query that I had was about the statement that's before the staff recommendation on the in the conclusion section. And I'll read the quote that's here. It says, improving the clarity and consistency of SMR domains for coursework review. And it might get to what Commissioner Simmons said about how the SMRs were this and that cart before the horse and all of that. How might those inconsistencies look? Do you guys have an example of like how they need to be clarified or more consistent? Because I think.
You mean in the existing domains? So, the best example I can, and I could send you the link, but the best example I can say is for science, they're all written as bullet points. For multiple subjects, each is like a long paragraph. Social science, they're even longer paragraphs. And in social science, it includes, which is part of teaching social science, it includes both the content and then the skills that are included with studying social science. So there's a lot of, there was no need for them to be aligned. And so there's just a lack of consistency.
So aesthetics and consistency.
Right.
It needs to look uniform.
Right, but also, the level of detail is provided there.
It's key. They were designed as test specifications. I'll just add on that they were designed to drive test development.
Right.
And they've been borrowed. We do transcript evaluation, and it's a tossed salad.
The other thing, piggybacking off of what Commissioner Poverty said about the degree major options and the limitations of creating an expansive list of those. Perhaps, and this, I'm just going to say perhaps we create a semi or a complete list of all of those majors that are in our California school system and our preparation programs here in the state, and are offered by our institutions in the state. That's our complete list here. But then the ones that are in Missouri or in like Wisconsin, I investigate the other 49 states and territories to figure out what their majors are called. Because I do understand we'll need to know or be aware of those programs. But I mean, I think if we're going to complete a list, maybe we can follow a list of the ones that we know are available here. And I know that at least the California community colleges are trying to align their courses so they're like more consistent. I don't know if the UCs, Cal States have taken that endeavor and decided to run with that. But I mean, at least we'll know if you say I'm a math major and it's an elementary math focus, that we know what that.
Commissioner Simmons.
I've just got a 10 more to say, but I think I'll call the question if that's okay.
With that said, will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Jeanette Brown. Aye. Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
Cheryl Cotton.
Aye.
Juan Cruz.
Aye.
Christopher Davis.
Aye.
Michael De La Torre.
Aye.
Peter Bruno Shire.
Aye.
Bonnie Klatt.
Aye.
Lit.
Aye.
Ruben Mancias.
Aye.
David Simmons. Richard Simpson.
Aye.
Wong Yusoff.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Dr. Waltliner, Mr. Ibrahim. Dr. Waltliner, I know you're going to stay for the next one. So our next item today is 2F, ongoing and plan improvement for commission approved examinations. This item is being presented by Mike Taylor, Juliet Waltliner. The information action item. Waltliner, will you please speak?
Commissioners. So like item 2E, which I just presented, item 2F, ongoing and improvements for our commission approved examination, builds on the item we brought to you in August. That item, which was approved, provided proposals for updating each of the commission's approved exams. This item presents the plan to do that work. So just as a refresher, the commission has approved 5 types of exams for operation. These are the early completion option, ECO, the California Basic Education Skills Test, or CBEST, the California Teachers of English Learners, CTEL, the California Preliminary Administrative Credential Examination, CPACE, and the California Subject Examinations for Teachers, CSET. We will talk a little bit more about each of these as we proceed through the item, but just wanted to give you a quick overview. So it's worth noting that each of these serves a distinct statutory purpose. But there have been changes in recent years since many of these were approved for operational use. These include statutory changes, primarily AB 130, and regulatory changes, which have broadened the ways candidates can demonstrate their proficiency. Additionally, state board approved standards and frameworks have been updated and our credential structures have evolved. Currently, several of our contracts for exams are nearing their end of term. And so we see this really as an opportunity to modernize our current exam system in a coordinated, cost-effective, candidate-focused way. Ultimately, our goal is to ensure that our exams maintain the high standards that the commission has set, while also being valid and reliable and cost-effective for our candidates. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, who's going to talk through the plan for.
Yeah, I'm going to start with ECO. These, I think, in the item are mentioned that they're arranged in order of sort of like complexity to plan, starting with the simplest here, ECO. The ECO we've talked about before, it's the early completion option for intern candidates. It's a pathway that intern candidates can take right now for multiple subjects and single subjects in which they get accelerate their way to an intern credential through the program. And statute requires this option also for the PK3 credential and for education specialist mild to moderate support needs credential. And so we're going to figure out some exams that can be adopted for these purposes so that we can have that option in place. The first step is to start looking at the TPEs. We'll work with colleagues at CTC in the Professional Services Division to get an idea between Ed Code and the TPEs what these exams need to be measuring to a pretty high degree. Then we'll start looking around and talking with vendors and seeing who has exams out there that might meet these needs for us that'll be closely aligned with the TPEs and any other standards that are important for this optional pathway for these credentials. The third step there is going to be to pick the best option for these candidates for single subject and multiple subject. It was just a matter of adopting an off-the-shelf test for those purposes, and it's been in place for a while. And then we'll bring that option here to the commission to talk about it and get approval to move forward. CBEST. Nobody needs to take CBEST anymore. It's historically been the gateway to teaching in California. I took it, you took it, everybody remembers taking CBEST. And the field fully understands that CBEST is what everyone does first, only That's not true anymore. And we're having a hard time convincing the field of that. So we're in a weird situation with CBES. The way the ed code is written, nobody needs to take it if that would be but we're still supposed to have it. So we're in a tricky situation. So, but there are some things we can do. We may not need to have a big custom assessment like CBES, like we've had all these years. So we're going to look at, and you can see on the slide there, the 4 permits. They're sort of low incidence groupings of people seeking licensure who need to take CBEST. So we're going to keep a basic skills test, but it may or may not be CBEST as we understand. And the plan for CBEST then is same as the previous exam. We're going to look at the content specifications for CBEST. We're going to help make a determination about what's really important in the modern era for a basic skills test, given California's current modern credential structure. And we're going to look around and find out what's out there, talk to vendors, see how exams align with the content specifications we do come up with, and pick an appropriate option, bring it here to the commission for review. All right, CTEL. We've also talked a lot here about CTEL. CTEL's in need of a refresh. It's something that is required by statute. We need to maintain it, but it's time to take a close look at it. The CTEL KSAs have been updated since the last time the CTEL was updated. So that's one option that needs to be addressed. But really, like the other exams we talked about, we really need to look at the CTEL KSAs and come up with KSAs that are appropriate for the modern environment. So that's really going to be the first step to the plan here. And that's to take a look at the existing KSAs and make the revisions that are necessary. Bring those to the commission for approval. Once the new KSAs are in place, then we'll issue an RFI, a request for interest from vendors who may be out there and have exams or want to help us build an exam for CTEL that may be more appropriate in the future. We'll have technical conversations with those, come up with recommendations. All right, CPACE. We've talked a lot about CPACE. So the work here on CPACE follows the work that was discussed earlier in the item with Aaron. And this work isn't going to start until we have the new standards in place. So the first work, as described earlier, is all the work on the preliminary administrative credential, and those standards needs to be done. And then, assuming the exam option survives, we'll talk about having a new CPACE. So again, it replaces a whole program. There was some talk about its structure. I can tell you the current CPACE is it's really 2 tests. It's a content assessment that has a lot of multiple choice items, and it's also a performance assessment that has no multiple choice items. Candidates need to pass both. It's got a very low pass rate, among the lowest of all commission exams right now. So we're going to update it. Like I said, assuming it survives the rest of the process. And there we're going to take the capes and cakes or cases, depending on who you are and how you say it, but the content expectations and the performance expectations for the preliminary administrative credential that are going to be worked on as part of the earlier items discussed. Once those are finished and approved by the commission, then we'll develop a new CPACE to measure those specifically, so that it's appropriate for the new credential. That will look like the last exam we talked about with an RFI process. We'll issue an RFI, we'll talk to vendors, we'll find out what's out there, what kind of exams can be built, etc. We'll come up with a plan that balances all the needs and interests Juliet talked about in the beginning, and we'll bring it to the commission for approval. And I'm going to turn it back over to Juliet to talk about CSET, since it's so closely linked with the SMR work we just told.
Since I just love thinking about the subject matter requirements, I will talk about CSETs. As we know, the CSET measures the subject matter requirements for each credential or authorization. One point that I want to make, and this came up in Mike's report in August with the annual report on the exams, is that the usage of, or the individuals taking the CSET, those numbers are rapidly declining because candidates can now meet the subject matter requirement with undergraduate coursework and degrees. and kind of anticipate that those numbers will continue to go down, but we'll see. So as I just discussed, we do have the proposed revision of the SMRs beginning in 2026. That will begin with those high frequency credential areas or high frequency CSET areas. Sorry, that's a mistake up there. And so so this work to update the CSETs can't happen until the subject matter requirement domains are updated. And so at the same, as I said in the last item, when they are revised, we'll make sure that they are revised to be both appropriate for transcript review and for developing new versions of CSETs or for evaluating new exams for consideration for CSETs. So once we have those revised domains, then we will again engage in the RFI process. This is to find out what exam options might be out there that are aligned to the approved SMRs. We'll engage in those technical conversations, engage in those bias reviews, make sure that what ultimately gets selected is the best option for our candidates, that assesses what we want them to assess, or the exams assess what we want them to assess, and yeah, provide the best option for our candidates. We'll prepare those recommendations and then present the proposed contract to the commission for consideration. The work will continue for remaining credential areas, but as you know, in a lot of credential areas, this work is going to be ongoing for quite a while, but we definitely want to get moving on it as quickly as we can. So with that, again, a long list of recommendations. This is really, again, laid out by exam. We recommend that you direct us to evaluate those ECO options for education specialist and PK3 intern candidates, present the recommendation and proposed contract to approval, evaluate the options for the CBEST replacement, present the recommendation and a proposed contract to you all, update the CTEL knowledge, skills, and abilities, bring those to you for approval, evaluate options for replacement, and then present that recommendation with a proposed contract. And then following the adoption of the updated administrative services standards, develop a revised CPACE that's aligned with the updated CAPES and CAPES, present that recommendation of the proposed contract. And same thing for the revised subject matter requirements. And then again, also that we provide periodic progress updates on the contracts, the timelines, and any needed regulatory and legislative. Thank you. Question.
Thank you. We will now open up for public comment. For members of the public that would like to make a comment, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comment?
Hi, I'm Lauren Winkle, undergraduate student at UC Berkeley on behalf of the California Teachers Association's Aspiring Educators Board. So CTA appreciates the Commission's transparency and open process to replace the current examinations and the update provided at the last Commission meeting as well as this one. CTA believes that the candidates shall not be required, candidates shall not be required to complete additional subject matter coursework if they have verified subject matter competence by examination. By expanding the early completion option to education specialists and PK3 interns, more candidates will have the opportunity for accelerated preliminary teaching credential. CTA believes any assessment of candidates should be non-duplicative, and state mandated tests for teacher preparation shall be paid for by the state. Teacher preparation examinations should be free to candidates unconditionally, and candidates should not have to carry that financial burden upon themselves. And we look forward to continuing this discussion. I'm so sorry about my stuttering. Continuing this discussionation on these examinations. Thank you.
Get part.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Action is pleased with the state statutory and regulatory changes that have broadened the ways in which candidates may demonstrate readiness for credentialing. The shift from examinations being the default route to now one of the several options along expanded coursework and degree-based pathways is an effective research-proven tactic to diversify our workforce. As the commission reviews options for possible examinations, AXA urges the commission to continue their work to align California standards and credentials with assurance that exams are bias-free. AXA looks forward to working with the commission to provide insight from the field to help develop policies that support educators and ensure every student receives the consistent, high-quality education they deserve. Thank you very much.
No additional requests for public comment.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Macias.
I was gonna make a, gosh, I can't, apologize. I was gonna make a motion to get it started with the conversation before, it's just in the interest of time, because I know that we need to move things along a bit, but I wanted to make a motion that take staff's recommendation and have to do items 1 through 6, and if you want me to read all 6 of them, I will.
I don't believe that's necessary. Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Commissioner Brown, seconds. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you. I want to say that this is one of the first items that has been brought here about assessments that I absolutely agree with, and think that we're moving in the right direction, not unfairly burdening people with that over assessment of things. We'll agree with our colleagues from CTA who talked about financial liabilities and all those things, obligations of candidates, but that's for a discussion further down the road. Again, this is still in the proposal stage, so I get that. Thank you.
Commissioner Macias.
Yeah, I just had a question about the CSET. I understand that a lot of it is embedded now, or it's with the degrees. You said fewer and fewer people are utilizing that route. Who still is? In other words, like what population,
Well, anyone who wants to add an authorization to an existing credential, for example, who may not have a lot of coursework or background or degree in that area. And really just a lot of people who come from places outside of education, teaching. So, and they just kind of like the idea of having an examination option. So it kind of turns it on its head. The exam's not the requirement. But if you don't have the coursework, you don't have time to take the coursework, and it just becomes an option for you to demonstrate you have that subject matter.
You saw?
Took a CSET for subject science. And it was very hard because I love science. I taught science 20 plus years. But I didn't have the single subject. So it was a nice option because I didn't want to go back to school and pay for more money and just, yeah. But I love that there's an option for both, because if you're curious and you love teaching kids, and if science is your jam, it's a wonderful option. And
that's our goal. It's like, just open up the options, right?
Yes.
So if you want to take the test, great. If you want to do coursework, great. Yeah, just creating those paths.
Brings great teachers to the classroom for our students at the end of the day. Because if they love the subject, you will inspire the next generation of STEMinists out there.
Every time we talk about CSET, I just must say, if we go back to the Ryan Act, 1970, I think this is correct. The default was meant to be a BA in the particular subject matter area with the subject matter connected to it. The test was sort of the loophole. So it really, CSET was not designed to be a barrier. It was designed to be a bridge. So I think it's when we look at it, that's kind of, I think, the frame we should use.
The commissioners. All right, with that said, there is a motion to approve the proposed plan that's listed on pages 8 and 9. Item to update the commissioner approved examinations. So first, there's a motion by Commissioner Davis, a second by Commissioner Brown. Is there any further discussion? Will the recording secretary please call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Brown.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Cotton.
Aye.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Michael Davis.
Aye.
Children Shire.
Aye.
Aye. Ira Lit.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
David Simmons. Aye. So.
Aye.
One use off. Motion carries.
Thank you, Dr. Waltleiner and Mr. Taylor. That said, having no additional items, I adjourn the Educator Preparation Committee.
Commissioner Cardenas. Next is the Legislative Committee. Commissioner Platt, will you please?
I now convene the Legislative Committee. Committee has one item before it today. Item 3A, status of legislation, is an information item. Jonathan Howard will present this item. Mr. Howard, please begin.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Quite a bit has happened since I last presented to you.
A little bit.
The legislature has now completed its work for the year, officially adjourning the first year of this 2-year legislative session on Saturday, September 13th. Unless the governor calls a special session, legislators will spend the remainder of the year in their districts and return to Sacramento on January 5th. This year, the Assembly and Senate sent 917 bills to the governor's desk. The governor acted on all of them by the October 13th deadline, signing 794 bills and vetoing 123. Of the 16 bills included in the report, 10 were signed into law, 4 remain active as 2-year bills and may be taken up again at the beginning of next year. 1 was vetoed and 1 failed to meet a legislative deadline. Commission staff have drafted and are submitting the necessary budget change proposals to the Department of Finance to support the new responsibilities created by these newly enacted laws. A couple examples of the implementation work that commission staff are now doing. AB 606 requires the commission to develop and issue preliminary professional services credentials with a specialization in pupil personnel services for out-of-state applicants. Staff are actively working to implement this new credential pathway. Under AB 959, the accreditation team is preparing to review and approve new internship prep programs offered by county offices of education and school districts for the preliminary administrative services credential. Professional Services Division faces a March 2027 deadline under AB 1119 to develop efficient pathways for teacher candidates and current credential holders to obtain an education specialist credential. Licensing and administrative services branches have begun outlining the scope of work required under SB 848, which expands the definition of mandated reporters to include private schools and non-certificated employees. And once funded, SB 848 will also require the commission to create and maintain a statewide database for reporting egregious misconduct by non-certificated employees and all employees at California private schools. The governor vetoed AB 1224, which would have extended the limit on emergency 30-day substitute teaching permits to allow up to 60 days per assignment. The commission previously held a robust discussion on this proposal during its June meeting. Following that discussion, and consistent with the commission's adopted legislative guidelines, a letter was submitted to the legislature requesting amendments to address key concerns. Commission staff engaged extensively with the bill's authors and sponsors to find a workable solution that would protect California's most vulnerable students. Our concerns were shared by several civil rights organizations, including Disability Rights California, the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, and public advocates. Despite these efforts, agreement was not reached before the legislature adjourned. After consultation with the chair and vice chair, a veto request letter was sent to the governor. In the governor's veto message, he stated, "I am returning Assembly Bill 1224 without my signature. To January 1st, 2029, this bill increases the time substitute teachers can serve in general education or special education classrooms to up to 60 days doubling or tripling current caps. Research demonstrates that substitute teachers tend to serve classrooms with a disproportionate number of students with disabilities, English learners, and students from low-income families. While this bill requires local educational agencies to offer mentorship, training, and support to substitute teachers, it does not mandate their participation in these programs. As such, this bill would allow individuals to serve our highest need students for as much as a third of a school year without minimally required training or mentorship. I recognize the author's goal of providing more continuity in challenging staffing situations. As such, I encourage the Commission on Teacher Credentialing to utilize its existing authority to engage stakeholders and expeditiously re-examine and amend its short-term staffing pathways to support continuity of instruction and to address the minimum levels of preparation and support required. Alternatively, the author could introduce legislation that addresses the lack of requiring training and support for long-term substitute teachers. This veto message echoed the concerns that the Commission and other stakeholders raised in our letters. Commission staff have already begun the process of working with education partners to find a solution that allows for continuity of instruction without undermining quality of instruction and support for students, and plan to have a proposal for the Commission at our December meeting. Although the legislature is officially in recess, legislative activity continues behind the scenes. Commission staff have already received multiple requests from senators and assembly members for consultations on potential bill concepts. We are actively engaging in these discussions, working with legislative staff, policy experts, and stakeholders to develop proposals that advance the Commission's mission and support the educator workforce. Additionally, we are meeting with policy and fiscal staff regarding potential workforce initiatives, grant programs, preparation proposals, as well as cleanup legislation in order to fully implement laws passed this year. Finally, we are reaching out to colleagues, legislative staffs, and education partners to learn more about their priorities for 2026 and to explore how the Commission can lend its expertise and support. And thank you, Commissioners, for your time and attention. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public who would like to make a comment, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording Secretary, are there any comments?
Yes, Latasha Porter. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
My name is Latasha Porter. I'm from Riverside County Office of Education. We were disappointed by the governor's decision to veto Assembly Bill 1224. The bill proposed a temporary, thoughtful, collaborative answer to California's persistent teacher shortage, crafted to ensure students have consistent instruction when staffing gaps occur. However, we are encouraged by the governor's directive to CTC to immediately re-examine and amend credentialing pathways. We look forward to working with CTC to develop effective policies that support our educators and guarantee every student a consistent, high-quality education. Thank you.
Brianna Burns.
Good afternoon, Brianna Brenz on behalf of the California County Superintendents, representing the 58 County Superintendents of Schools. I'm here to provide comment on item BA. As one of the co-sponsors of AB 1224 by Assemblymember Valencia, we were naturally disappointed in the governor's decision to ultimately veto the bill that would have extended the number of days that a substitute can serve in a single classroom. However, we're encouraged by the veto message asking us to work together to develop a solution. As Jonathan already shared, the veto message asks CTC to work with educational partners to re-examine and amend the pathways to ensure that students are provided with continuity in the classrooms, both in times when a teacher is on leave, as well as when a teacher is not available due to the current staffing crisis. We look forward to working with you all to develop a solution that we all feel comfortable with, again, with that shared goal of providing continuity for our students. So thank you for your.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Simmons.
I just want to say that I'm very pleased that staff is dealing with 1224 expeditiously. I don't think it said a meeting. So that, and I'm happy with December. I think that is a very, because what Valencia was trying to address is there is inconsistency over time. The number of leaves that we that have access to have extended far beyond what they were when we created STIPs and PIPs and some of those other documents. So, I mean, you think about 10 months on a pregnancy, which is essentially the entire school year. So that makes it really complicated for human resources office staff classrooms. So but I also agree with the governor's veto message for that he gave. So I think that we really are best suited to deal with this issue, given our current legislative authority. But what I wanted to talk about was SB 848, because given the changes in law around reference checks, it makes sense for there to be a statewide clearinghouse. It also makes sense, I think, that the commission uses where it's out, because we have the most experience at that kind of thing. But but it really does create a whole other world for us. The bill says that we can be held liable for anything that's in there. But then I wonder, even if we're not financially liable, are we morally liable if there's something that goes in there that is incorrect? And what would be the mechanism for having it taken out? So I think that there's a lot of talking that has to be done around 48. The other thing that is in 848 that I haven't heard a lot of talk about is there's a requirement that each individual district create a standard for appropriate boundaries between staff and children. And I wonder if that isn't something that would make more sense for there to be some sort of statewide standard on what are appropriate boundaries. And as I think of like our CSTP would be a place where it might fit. When we were looking at the child development permit, whatever it is we were looking at this morning, I was thinking, should boundaries go in there? Because these are, and I'll tell you, several times a year, I have issues with trying to determine whether a staff member has exceeded those boundaries or not. So having some kind of standard, I think, would be helpful.
Other commissioners, questions or comments? Around.
What is the, not just what is the effect, but how is the AB 1123 going to be implemented after January 1st, 2026?
1123 is the change to the makeup of the commission by adding additional ECE. So it will happen naturally as the members term out. So as there's the one dedicated teacher spot that is now an ECE teacher. And then, there's the one teacher spot that will become a dedicated ECE educator spot. So when the first, public, sorry.
It's the public. So would you?
Problem when there's a public member of the commission, the next one who terms out, they would be replaced with an ECE educator. An educator of ECE staff. And it's complicated. And then one of the 6 teacher positions, it's permissible for the governor to appoint an ECE educator to that. So that would be up to both of those are up to the discretion of the governor of who gets appointed. But one of the public seats now is for someone so it's just as those people term out and new people get appointed by the governor's office, they will come online.
It's two total, because the way this reads is one of six and then also and. So
It's one, it's
two
it's
total.
one definitely and one maybe.
One of the six teacher positions to be filled by a teacher who holds a child development permit.
Word may.
And teacher at a state-funded preschool or pre-kindergarten program. So is that one person gonna have both those both? I'm just confused, that's all. So you need to have a child development permit and you need to be a teacher at a state-funded preschool or.
No, I'm gonna either help or complicate.
Okay.
Hopefully it's the first. The next open public seat must be filled by somebody with that ECE.
That's that last line.
Right.
And.
The
upon
next
person.
teacher position and the next teacher seat that opens up may be filled by somebody with an ECE credential. That's up to the governor. So that piece is admissible, or I'm sorry, permissible. The first one is not. So the next public seat that opens must go to somebody with the ECE experience. The next teacher seat that opens may go to somebody at the discretion of the governor. So that would be two. Plus, I believe the faculty position.
That was what this says, public member seat or a faculty member.
Got it, yes. So that's the must.
That's the first vacancy, that's the must.
The next one, it comes up. So we're not kicking anyone off the commission.
Okay. Other commissioners? I have a question actually about AB 1306. I'm just curious that when it permits the commission to authorize local school districts and county offices to offer teacher education programs for cross-cultural language and several other things. I'm just curious, would that be an additional program now that the commission has to approve, like it approves other things? Or I'm just curious about the mechanism for that, or if you can explain a little bit more about what that looks like.
Yeah, that would be anytime I'm not gonna say it that way. I'm just gonna say yes. So LEAs now may apply through our IPR process to offer those programs. So we may see a big influx of LEAs that want to offer those programs.
So that could be a significant amount of work then.
It could be.
Okay.
It could be.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Simmons.
Don't since a lot of county offices that would do this, Board of Unified, already offer credential programs, so they've already been through the whole IPR process. This would just be adding, for most of them, it would just be adding a program.
Yeah, so IPR, I'm sorry, and I'm using acronyms and I'm sorry for the public. So, and this may be not what you're asking, but the two institutions that came first thing this morning with IIA, those are institutions, they're not even approved to operate yet. So they have to do that. Then they can add through IPR new programs. So these would be existing commission approved institutions, in this case, LEAs, can now apply through the IPR process. IPR is any time an institution wants to add another program to its menu of options.
So, okay, so now I thought I understood and now maybe I don't. So this would only enable programs that had already been approved in one area to just add another area.
Yeah, it's any commission approved institution. In this case, it focuses on the LEAs because the IHEs can already do it.
Okay.
So if they're already in our system as an institution that's accredited, they can now apply through IPR to add another program. In this case, CTEL.
They're already here.
They're already here. So
Got it.
not
And that
new
was the-
institutions, just adding programs to existing.
Oh, and I think I see, yes, Commissioner Francois.
I'm going to pass at this time.
Thank you. And
Sorry about that.
need to apologize. I'm looking around. I don't see any other raised hands. Are there any other questions or comments? Right, then thank you. This is an information item and no action is necessary. Thank you for all of, I'm sure the last month or two, you've had a lot on your plate. So thank you, Mr. Howard. And having no additional items, I adjourn the legislative committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Platt. I now reconvene the general session and move to item 1H, new business. The bi-monthly agenda is presented for information. Next on the agenda is presentations. Please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raised hand icon. If participating through Zoom or pressing *9, if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any audience presentations?
There are no audience.
Okay, I'll recess the general session. Members of the commission will go into closed session after a 10-minute break. We'll come back. The general session will reconvene at 8:30 tomorrow morning. I'll